right, everyone, welcome to our Meet the Candidates Night, broadcast live on Channel 16 and appearing on Phelps County Focus Facebook Live and YouTube channel. We thank the candidates who are here taking part to help not only bring awareness to their views on issues, but to show how important elections are. We also like to thank Channel 16 for helping us reach more people with this broadcast. My name is Donald Dodd. I'm Phelps County Focus publisher and will attempt to be the moderator tonight. And if I stumble a little bit, forgive me. That's not something we do every day. This is called an equal time Q&A, and Andrew Sheely of our staff is going to be the timer. So just keep an eye on him, and if you get close to your time, he will let you know. I think he's going to give you a 10-second warning. And after that, we just cut your mic off. No, not really. But we do appreciate you try to we stay within the time limit. All of you received some of these questions ahead of time, and then that would allow you to do some research and provide some good, thorough answers. This type of Q&A is not meant to stump anybody. We want you to be prepared and to be able to give some good answers to the public. And then we'll have two additional questions that come from the public, and we didn't discuss those until just a few minutes ago. We'll let you know what those would be. We're going to start out, each candidate will have 30 seconds to introduce themselves and then 60 seconds to answer each of the questions. We're going to start out alphabetically, and then we'll rotate. So your first question, Tara will give an answer to that one, and then Justin and Susie, and then we'll flip-flop that. And we could get really complicated and start in the middle and flip around, but these are just Q&A, so I think what we'll do is just go back and forth on that. And like I said, we'll start out with Missouri Senate District 16, and we have all three candidates here tonight. Tara Anura with the Democratic Party, Justin Brown, Republican, and Susie Pollock, Republican. So we'll get started now. Like I said, you'll have 30 seconds to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're running for office. And like I said, we'll start out alphabetically, and we'll start out with Tara. If you want to take about 30 seconds to tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Tara Honora. I'm a resident here in Rolla. Previously, I lived in Licking, Missouri, Texas County. I'm a lifelong Missourian and a rural Democrat running for Missouri State Senate District 16. I don't belong to a family legacy of politicians. I'm a citizen just like you, and I hope you can learn more about me and the other candidates tonight.
All right, thank you. All right, Justin.
Thank you, Don, and the Phelps County Focus and the Rolla Public School District for allowing us to be here tonight. I'm Justin Brown, and Rolla is my home. I was born and raised here. I'm a farmer and a former banker. In the last 4 years, I've had the privilege of representing Phelps County in the Missouri Senate. I'm running for re-election because I have a proven record of fighting for Phelps County in the Senate, from supporting and passing legislation that will increase jobs and opportunities there to strengthening our Second Amendment protections to protecting the life of the unborn. And at the end of the day, I'm a conservative Christian, a farmer, and a father who is trying my best to make Phelps County the best it can be for my neighbors, family, and friends, and my constituents. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Susie.
Thank you. I'm Susie Pollock, State Representative for Laclede and Camden Counties. I've been in the House of Representatives for 4 years and served you faithfully with a voting record to prove it. I was born and raised on a farm. I've worked in the medical field for 26 years, saving lives in the cardiac cath lab, and I am running for Missouri Senate because votes matter, and being conservative is why we're elected, and I look forward to getting to know everyone.
I thank all of you. And now we'll go to the 6 questions. As I mentioned earlier, the first 4 are compiled by the Phelps County Focus staff, and the final 2 submitted by the public. You cut me off after 10 seconds? All right, you'll have 60 seconds for each of these. We'll start out now with this question. And those were introductions, so Anura, you'll go first on this one, and then we'll rotate. Missouri S&T has continued to earn national prestige while being Phelps County's largest employer. Is the system working? Should additional resources be pursued? If elected, what will your priority be for the university?
I think the actual question is, as Phelps County's largest employer, is Missouri S&T a responsible employer? Are they paying fair wages to their graduate students who are working hard, long hours, while they're dedicated to their own education and others' education? Are they fairly paying their associate professors? I heard they are not. Let's also ask, would it be better to forego the multi-million-dollar roundabout and new entrance in order to keep tuition lower for residents so they can attend the university? If elected, I'm actually going to make my priority funding pre-K through 12 to make sure that we have clean water in our schools. And I also ask the university to be fiscally responsible to keep tuition lower for students.
All right, thank you. Okay, Justin, would you like me to repeat that question?
No, I think I got it. Thank you, Don.
Okay.
Okay, so, you know, being a Rolla resident, I know how important S&T is not only to the state and the world and this local economy. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to represent the university. And we need to keep our economy moving forward. We need to focus on jobs that are practical and industrial. And S&T is leading that charge, and STEM is the future. Just this year, I was able to bring back significant funding for the university through the Missouri budget process. Money that otherwise wouldn't come back to our community and help grow and build our district. So what I would like to continue to work on is the Protoplex project that the chancellor here in Rolla is working on. That is a huge opportunity, not only for the students there to get national recognition, but to bring manufacturing back to this district, not just Rolla, but the entire 16th district. We are setting in a place along this I-44 corridor that we can bring jobs that would more than likely be manufactured in Kansas City and St. Louis based on the research they're going to do at this university right here in Rolla to bring it to Rolla and actually put general revenue back into the budget. Thank you.
Okay. All right, would you, you want me to repeat the question?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. We know that Missouri S&T is a world-renowned institution that has done a great job. I know many people that have graduated and had many successful careers from there. It's an asset to the community, the state, and our nation. I will continue to support the university and work diligently when I'm elected to get to know what the needs are for this community and for S&T to move forward in the right direction as a great economic driver and educational institute for our entire community.
All right, thank you. All right, now we're going to go right back to Susie with the next question. Lack of high-speed internet and cell phone service for Newburgh and other rural parts of Phelps County has prevented those areas from seeing the full benefit of potential investments. Should the state government take a more active role in expanding these services or leave the matter to the free market?
Thank you. We cannot leave this issue to the free market. It is severe. We've been focused on it in the state legislature for 4 years, and I've talked to many of the internet providers, and it is not financially feasible or profitable for them to invest. So as the state legislature, we formed special committees, we've redone mapping, and we continue to work on this challenging issue. It's so important. During COVID, we had students that had to drive to the school and do their homework at the school just to use the internet there. And so I've talked to many people, and we're going to continue to fight to build the infrastructure that's very much needed with state dollars.
Okay, thank you. All right, Justin?
Thank you. As sitting on Senate Appropriations, I was proud to vote in the supplemental budget to increase funding for broadband expansion across the state. Of course, it's a huge disadvantage to our children, and it's also a disadvantage for us to be able to get our children to come back to our communities by not having high-speed internet. This is an issue that I've worked on since I've been up there. I filed legislation the first 2 years I was up there to hold these providers and the people that actually get these fibers to these municipalities and counties to where they have to, within 5 years of receiving funding for high-speed internet infrastructure, that the standards have to be above or at least meet FCC requirements. That's a responsibility as a state with all this money that we've appropriated this past year, that we have to make sure it gets spent wisely and in the right places, because the 16th district is in huge need of high-speed internet.
All right, thank you. Tara?
I'm really glad to hear that that's being worked on and that we have 5 years to meet the FCC requirements after getting that money. Because as we know, internet is vital to modern society. That's where we file our taxes, that's where we sign up for services. As we've heard during COVID, people had to go to virtual doctors, school, and even remote employment. Now, I know we've been paying taxes to these companies that promise us rural broadband, and we're all asking, where is it? So if there's a way to recoup that money, I want to find out how to do it and make sure we actually get what we've been promised over the past 10 years or so.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we'll stick with Tara on this next question. The state legislature in recent years has sought to overturn laws passed by citizen initiative or change the criteria to have an issue placed on the ballot. What is your view of Missouri's initiative process?
I think the current process is just fine because it's the Missouri legislature's job to represent us. The problem is the GOP-run legislature nullifies our voices. Other Missourians and I gathered signatures and got expanded Medicaid on the ballot. We voted and passed that. We voted for and passed Clean Missouri to help end the lobbyist corruption because they're supposed to work for us, not the lobbyists. Then for 2 years, we waited for funding for Medicaid while we were going through a pandemic. Our budgets for our local service offices have been slashed. People have to wait at home missing work so they can wait for a phone call. We need to keep our initiative. We should not let our voices be canceled by making it too hard to put a ballot or to put initiative on the ballot.
All right, thank you. All right, Justin?
The initiative petition process in this state is out of control. It definitely needs to be reformed. I wholeheartedly support initiative petition reform. I don't have enough time to go into why that hasn't happened yet tonight, but I can tell you it's because of some of the dysfunction in the Senate that I have not been involved with. But you know, we've allowed Obamacare to be passed in this state. We've allowed gerrymandering by Democrats to be allowed in this state by the IP process. And I would support an initiative petition that would take signatures from all 8 congressional districts, and it would take 2/3 vote to change the Constitution when it comes to the amendments. And if we don't get that done, that should be one of our number one priorities as Republicans in both houses or both chambers, whether it be if you're in the Senate or the House, over this next legislative session. Because I can tell you folks listening out there tonight, look up ranked choice voting. That's going to be on the ballot, and that is a sure way, if you're a Republican, to get Democrats in power. And thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, Susie, do you need me to repeat the question? Or
No, I have it. Thank you. Our initiative petition process does need some changes. I like the federal model. I think that we don't really need to require more signatures, but to spread them out over the state and to increase the 2/3 vote to get that passed on the ballot.
Okay, thank you. All right, we've got an easy question now, and we'll stay with Susie on this one. What is another key issue facing our community you are concerned with, and how do you propose to address it?
So I think the major issue for all of Missourians, and as I've been knocking doors, they've confirmed it, is inflation and our high fuel prices. I voted against the Missouri fuel tax that the voters voted down 3 times, once in 2014, 16, and 18. But my opponent voted in support of the tax, the fuel price tax increase, along with Biden administration has put gas prices double what they were 2 years ago. And I think that we have to focus on repealing the gas tax or putting a limit on it, putting a pause on the tax when the price goes over $3.50 per gallon.
Okay, thank you. All right, Justin, what's a key issue facing the community, and how do you propose to
Well, I'm going
address
to take
it?
about 5 seconds to respond to that comment, but if you want to repeal the gas tax, you can do it one receipt at a time, and you're more than welcome to contact my office, and we can walk you through the process. It's very easy. So one thing that I'm working on in the state right now is heading up the Illegal Immigration Committee, and that's responsible for making basically every state in this country or border state with the opioid crisis, any kind of drug crisis we have, and human trafficking. Locally, I think an emerging issue that we all know, and I'm going to use Rolla as an example, is the homeless population. Now, there may not be a lot of things we can do as a state, but we can sure work with the local authorities, whether it be in the municipality or the county, to try to address this issue, because I don't think that Rolla has the resources to give what this population needs at this point, but we need to all get together at the table, whether it be my office, the city council, or the county commission, and figure out what we're going to do, because I have 2 businesses in this town that gets affected by that every day, and I think that is something that we really need to look into over these next few months before we go back in session. Thank you.
Okay, Tara?
We are in the middle of a healthcare crisis. And I'm not, there's no way to put this nicely. Here in Missouri, women's rights have been taken away. We no longer have body autonomy. And the legislature and the governor don't even know what they've signed. We can't get clarification on these abortion bans from either Governor Parson or the Department of Health and Human Services. Why do we need lawyers in the ER when people are dying in the middle of a birthing crisis? No, you saved their life. And people should talk to their doctor about what is right for them. And I want to remind everyone that we are a democracy, not a theocracy.
Okay, thank you. All right, next will be our 2 questions from the public, and again, you've got 60 seconds to answer. And I want to remind everybody that at the end, you're going to have 2 minutes. So if you're taking notes on everything that's said, everybody will have 2 minutes to, reflect back on what's been talked about or bring up something different. So it'll be wide open, just, if you remember that. Okay, first question, and let's see, we're back to Tara again on this one. Unless you guys want to let Justin go first on one of them?
Sure.
All right, let's let Justin go first on this one. Because we are trying to be fair, and even though it is a question and answer, and it's not a debate, it's not a back and forth, but I guess there's sometimes an advantage going first or last. I don't know, but we'll let Justin go. Now we have to remember then who goes after him.
It don't matter.
Okay, Justin. Solar power is the fastest growing power source in America, but Missouri gets its power predominantly from coal. What will you do to incentivize utility-scale solar power as well as customer-generated solar for those without access to clean energy?
I've had the opportunity and privilege over the last 4 years to carry most of the Cooperative Electric Association's legislation. And it's kind of ironic that we get this question. I'm on a solar energy task force as we speak to see and how we can help both the municipalities, the co-ops, and the solar industry try to integrate into the state. I don't think it's a bad idea, but I think that we need to tread that water lightly, because we do have a lot of bad players and bad apples in that business, just like any other business. But we want to make sure that they're paying their part to keep our grid system up and going, and that's something that this task force it has individuals from solar, wind, co-ops, and municipalities on it, and we're going to have experts actually tell us as legislators what those issues are regarding it and how we build that grid, and then we will try to figure out how we can legislate that with experts' opinions.
Thank you. All right, Susie, you want to go second on this one?
Sure. There are many incentives out there for solar energy, and our electric co-ops are working diligently, and I agree with most of what he said, actually, that there is legislation that needs to protect the infrastructure that the utilities have already put in there, and not put all the responsibility off on them to provide the way we use the solar energy. And so we need clean energy, but we have a great infrastructure already that we can't just disregard and not use.
Thank you. Tara?
Much like broadband, I see solar as an opportunity for municipalities and counties to not only make a revenue, but to assist their local population. It does need to be something well thought out so that we don't disrupt the current infrastructure and utility companies. But I think there's an opportunity there for low-income housing to use solar that not only would help with our climate emergency, but it would ease the burden of energy bills of people who have a lower income. There is a lot of concerns about people losing jobs if we move away from coal, but I see that people can be trained to embrace wind, solar, so not only do we have a cleaner, brighter future, but it's more affordable for our communities.
Okay, thank you. All right, who wants to go first this time? We want to give Justin another chance to go first. That'll give him two. Okay, all right, we'll let Justin go first. The sweeping law enforcement reform bill passed last year is a campaign issue this year. Explain, for those of you that were able to vote, explain your vote on that. And Tara, you did not have a vote on that, but just all of you explain your stance on that and how you feel the impact on this bill has been.
I proudly voted for that bill. That bill would have been towards the end of session of 2021. I had some legislation in that bill that dealt with sheriff's pay raise, and it made it across the governor's desk, which increased sheriff's pay raise across the state. Doesn't matter what county you're in. It made it more. Basically makes it more competitive for sheriff's races. But there was instances where some deputies in some counties were making more than the elected sheriff was. You know, a lot of that reform had to do with things that were designed there to protect law enforcement from, you know, whether it be frivolous lawsuits, and there needed to be some reform and some of that language too. That was a big bill. Senator Lukemeyer handled that bill in the Senate and spent a lot of time on it, and we were able to get that done. And you know, we got to back the blue. We get the question all the time, why can't we get more law enforcement hired? But you know, it starts with backing the blue. The money's there. We just have to back the blue and encourage people.
All right, Susie, we'll let you go second on this one then.
Thank you. I voted against the legislation for several reasons. One, because it had so many amendments, and another one, the main reason, was because it did an unfunded mandate on our counties. County government runs on a very tight budget, and the state raised the sheriff's pay, some of them by $30,000 per sheriff, and there's not money in the county budget for that. So I voted against that raise because it took away local control from our counties, and it tied their raises for the rest of the time to the federal judges' raises, and puts an undue burden on our county commission and our county government that has to support the entire county. And there's no way to substantiate those raises over the years. Thank you.
Thank you. Tara?
I come from a family of military members. I also have members in my family who have worked for police departments. One issue they face is low pay. I think that's one of the reasons we have trouble keeping officers in law enforcement who are actually committed to justice, is because they're not receiving the pay for their hard work. So I am glad to hear that there were pay increases in that bill. I'm also glad to hear that in those bills, which I believe were Police Reform, Bill 53 and 60 in the Senate, I'm glad to hear that police are now have to report when they use force, and that they can no longer use chokeholds. I was one of the organizers for the Justice for George Floyd March back in 2020 here in Rolla, and we had 2 hours of testimony after that march about racism in the police department.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now as I mentioned earlier, we're going to, that concludes the questions now. You've got 2 minutes to follow up from any previous questions that have been discussed, or if you'd like to bring up something new, each of you will have 2 minutes, and I think we'll go back to like we started and let Tara go first, and then Justin, and then Susie.
I want to thank you guys for hosting this forum, the Phelps County Focus, and thank you for people who are tuning in. I hope you'll share this with as many people as possible. This is a very critical year that we get involved with politics, with the government, because we are the government. If we don't show up, if we don't speak up, if we don't run for office ourselves, we're not going to be heard. We have survived a pandemic. We held on to our democracy through an insurrection on January 6th when people tried to end our democracy. And that's a fact. We've been listening to the January 6th committee hearings, and we know who was responsible. We know what party was responsible. So now you have to be responsible and get out there to vote. And I want to encourage you to get involved with your local Democratic Party. Come to our meetings. I want you to be a part of the government because it's supposed to be we, the people. And I see you, Laclede, Dent, Maries, Wright, Pulaski, Phelps, Crawford, Fort Leonard Wood area. We're resilient. We can hunt our own food, we can fish. We all drink the water that comes through the aquifers under our mountains and up through the pipes in our wells. I'm just like you. And it's time we're responsible for what's happening in this country. So I want you to vote, and I hope you'll vote for me, because I will protect your rights, your reproductive rights, your rights as members of the LGBT community, minorities, and other religious organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. Justin?
Thank you again, Donald, and the Phelps County Focus and the Rolla Public School District for allowing us to use this facility tonight. You know, again, I'm Justin Brown. I'm running for re-election. I've been a state senator for 4 years. This is my first publicly held office. But at the end of the day, I'm a conservative Christian, a farmer, and a father who's just trying my best to make Phelps County and the 16th District the best for my neighbors, family, and friends. I'm human just like anyone else, but I've spent every day since I've been elected fighting for the betterment of our area. I'm the only candidate in this race that's been endorsed by Missouri Farm Bureau, the Missouri Chamber of Commerce, the Missourians for Life, the Missouri Fraternal Order of Police, and the NRA. So why I mention all these organizations, the reason why these organizations are endorsing me, because they know that I'm somebody that can get something done in Jeff City. I've been able to pass upwards of 40 pieces of legislation that's been made it across the governor's desk. I sit on Senate Appropriations, and that is a huge net worth I can bring back to this district. I've sat on appropriations for 4 years, and I've been able to bring back a significant amount of money to our district. Because I'll tell you something out there, folks, it doesn't matter when you get into appropriations, whether you're a Democrat or Republican. When you walk into that hearing room, your DNR stays at the door, and it's all about the rural versus the urban. And you better believe it, you need people on that committee that can fight for your dollars. That's your tax dollars. You need to decide where you want your tax dollars to stay in your communities, in the rural areas, or would you like them to go to St. Louis and Kansas City? And I feel like that I have done a good job on appropriations. And the legislation that I have handled, it gets red tape and government bureaucracy out of people's lives. And I humbly ask for your support and your vote on August 2nd. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Susie?
Thank you. I'm Susie Pollock, candidate for Missouri Senate District 16. I am the only proven true conservative, proven by scores from American Conservative Union, CPAC, with a score of 88, while my opponent has a score of 67%. Americans for Prosperity scored me with a score of 90%, while my opponent received a score of 50. Votes matter. The money, follow the money. You should go to Missouri Ethics Report and look at who's receiving money from all the PACs, from all of big government, and realize that if you want a grassroots person that will be honest and serve you well and fight for the people, not big government, then I'm your girl. I'm Susie Pollock, running for Missouri Senate, and thank you to everyone for hosting this event and the facility.
All right, well, thank all of you. That concludes our Senate District 16, and I encourage everybody out there watching this to take a look and see what your district is. You wouldn't believe how many people that I talk to all the time, and they ask me, "Oh, which district do I vote in?" So, you know, people that are listening need to find that out before they go to the poll and do some research. Okay, we appreciate the three of you, and now next up will be
Thank you.
House Representative District 122. And we're going to follow the same format that we did with the Senate District 16. You'll have 30 seconds to introduce yourself, and you know, please include why you're running for office, and maybe just talk a little bit about your qualifications. You know what to do. And here again, we'll start out alphabetically. We hate having an odd number because then we end up trying to get everybody to go first and take their turn. So we'll start out with Randy. Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you, Don. I'm Randy Barr. I'm from here in Phelps County. Been here for over 60 years living here in the county. My family's raised up here in the south part of the county. We were raised up on a farm. I've spent 23 years with the Phelps County Sheriff's Department, retired from them. I've been retired 10 years. I got plenty of time for this job. That's why I filed for this. I have nothing else to do, no other businesses. This would be all I would have to do, and
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, thank you, Randy. Lisa?
Hello, I'm Lisa McCarthy, and I'm running for the Missouri State House of Representatives, District 122. I grew up on a family farm in rural Phelps County. I graduated from St. James High School, got my Bachelor's of Science degree in Applied Mathematics from the University of Missouri Rolla, and my Master's of Science from Southwest Baptist University. I taught for 32 years for the Rolla, St. James, and Salem school districts. I would like to run for office so I can change the dialogue in Jeff City and bring it back to the issues that are important to our hardworking Missourians.
Thank you. All right, Tara?
My name is Tara Peters. My husband Chris and I, who I've been married to for 21 years, made Rolla our home about 21 years ago. My two teenage boys, Landon and Ledger, attend our public schools. My whole entire family owns and operates a farm and an agritourism destination down 63 South. We own Pete's Pumpkin Patch. And basically when the pandemic hit, there were a lot of small businesses that suffered, and as a small business owner, I just felt like I needed to get involved in government so we can support those institutions.
Okay. All right, now, as we did before, we'll cover 6 questions. The first 4 compiled by the Phelps County Focus staff, and then the final 2 submitted by the public. And here again, you'll have 60 seconds to answer each question, and Andrew will be timing you over here. And we'll start alphabetically, so Randy will go first on this one. Missouri S&T has continued to earn national prestige while being Phelps County's largest employer. Is the system working? Should additional resources be pursued? If elected, what will your priority be for the university?
The university is growing every day. It's getting bigger and bigger. It's going to be as big as their campus in Columbia if they keep growing. They've got new buildings going up. They got the new entryway coming in that the city just spent $3.2 million on, putting the new entryway into the university. And they're growing in population, they're growing in employees, and they just keep growing and growing, and that's one of the biggest employers of Phelps County. And it just needs to be subsidized a little bit more so they keep growing. The students are coming in from all over the world. They've got Chinese, Japanese, Indians. They've got the whole range of students up there. And they just keep growing and growing and producing good engineers at that school. That's one of the best engineer schools.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Lisa?
Having earned my degree from the University of Missouri-Rolla, I have a lot of loyalties to the university. And if elected, I have two priorities. One of those is to encourage the continued research, very valuable research that goes on at the university. And my second one would be to feed the university students who are ready for the studies that are involved in the STEM fields. With the research, I, as a representative, would use our wealth of knowledge that we have here right here in Rolla, Missouri. I want to take those faculty members, the students there, to the House floor, where when issues are brought up, when we're talking about hearings about clean energy, mechanical advances, medical advances, these things that are very important to Missourians and to our legislators, I want to use our experts that are right here at the university to show what is available to them. Also with the K-12, I would like to increase the state adequacy target that would allow us to improve the funding for public schools. Thank you.
Okay, Tara?
So yes, as Phelps County's biggest employer, I believe the question was, is the system working? From a student perspective, obviously the university would not be a top 5 engineering school if it wasn't working for the students. As a former employer at the university, I worked for their public radio station. I understand the system, and I do support their endeavors. However, while the system does believe to be working for the students, I do believe that there seems to be a little bit of a disconnect between the university and its employees. As the last week or so, I've reached out to some of the employees there, and the university has sent out a culture study to the employees to ask them their thoughts on the culture of the university. Some of the issues that came back addressed lack of raises and promotions, low pay, turnover, which means higher workloads for others. So, but as a state representative, I believe that position not only needs to be a champion for the university, but we have to be accountable to our employers that are there and the taxpayers of Phelps County.
Okay. All right, now we're gonna start with, let's see, here we go with Tara on this one. Lack of high-speed internet and cell phone service for Newburgh and other rural parts of Phelps County has prevented these areas from seeing the full benefit of potential investments. Should the state government take a more active role in expanding these services or leave the matter to the free market?
So obviously broadband, very important to the area. Federal funding is in full force to get some of those efforts underway. Currently, Intercounty Electric Cooperative here in Phelps County is conducting a broadband feasibilities for the co-op as we speak. I did also reach out to the Merrimack Regional Planning Commission, who has a ton of efforts and stakeholders involved in this process to bring this to the area. And while the government, I think, needs to drive the process a little bit, I do believe in free market, and I think that they need to work together to make sure that we have those adequate opportunities for our rural areas.
Okay, thank you. Lisa?
Through the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, $6.5 billion is available to Missouri over the next 4 years. In addition to roads, bridges, wastewater treatment system, renewable energy, and clean water, there's money available for broadband expansion to rural areas. We should take advantage of this incredible opportunity to expand and upgrade our internet system. These projects will create high-paying jobs for many Missourians. It will be state government that oversees the distribution of the $6.5 billion, but the free market is definitely going to be at the table to bid on these projects. Again, this means jobs for Missourians.
Thank you. Randy?
Yeah, the free market on the internet service is sort of working. Fidelity and Intercounty has brought lines from Rolla out to to my place because they're rolled up and hanging on the pole there on my property. And that's about 6 miles out. But they just quit that, and that was 5 years ago. It's just been hanging there doing nothing for 5 years. So somebody needs to do something to get these people going again, to get this stuff finished, if they're gonna bring it out there and bring it around the county. And they just need a kick in the butt to get them going, I guess. And maybe the people in Jeff City can do that and get them started and get them to finish the job that they started. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's everybody, right? Don't want to get mixed up, leave anybody out. All right, our next question, and I think we'll let Lisa go first on this one so we can kind of stagger it around a little bit. The state legislature in recent years has sought to overturn laws passed by citizen initiative or change the criteria to have an issue placed on the ballot. What is your view of Missouri's initiative process?
Medicaid expansion in Missouri was made possible by citizen initiative. Medicaid expansion has been available since 2014, but the Republican-led Missouri General Assembly chose not to take advantage of the 90% federally funded expansion. Through the efforts of Missouri citizens, a petition initiative made its way to the ballot, where Missourians clearly voiced their desire to provide Medicaid expansion throughout the state. Without the expansion, medical facilities were not getting reimbursed for non-insured patients, and several facilities were left with no option but to close their doors, leaving rural Missourians without access to medical attention. I fully support citizen initiatives as it gives voice to the people who feel they are not being heard by their elected officials. I oppose efforts to make it more difficult to get petition initiatives on the ballot. Statutory initiatives already require 6 of the 8 congressional districts to collect enough signatures from registered voters before the initiative is even considered by the Secretary of State. After the signature verifications, the initiative petition goes through legality and cost analysis before being placed on the ballot for voter approval.
Okay, Randy, you want to go second on this one?
I'm all for the initiative. I believe it works. The vote starts with the state representatives. They vote for the bills, then they pass them on, and once they get voted and go across the governor's desk, if the people don't like them or they've got a problem with them or whatever, they can get enough votes on the ballot to get it brought back in before the people and get it changed. That's to me, that's the way the government ought to work. If the people out there don't like what's going on, they can vote to get it changed. And that's what this initiative is. If you get out there and you get enough votes on, or get enough signatures on your ballot, you can get the things changed and get it put on a ballot to get it voted on. Thank you.
All right, Tara?
So this process has been in place for 115 years, and while it does offer the opportunity for those to have a voice for such things as we've mentioned before, higher minimum wage, medical marijuana, Medicaid expansion, as a supporter of the sanctity of the Constitution, though, I also believe that the Missouri Constitution is a very important document and that making changes to it should not be a process that is taken lightly. As it stands, only a simple majority is all it takes to adopt an amendment, and there are changes proposed that would raise that requirement to 2/3 majority. They're not saying that people aren't going to have a voice and that the process is going to be harder. I believe that people that are passionate about such things just have to work a little harder to make those things a reality. Also, I believe that the concern is that we've got a lot of groups that have nefarious efforts that want to get in there, and so we need to make sure that we're protecting our Constitution.
Okay, thank you. All right, our next question, and I believe we'll go back to let Randy go first on this one. What is another key issue facing our community you are concerned with, and how do you propose to address it?
Well, one key problem is the drug problem here in Phelps County. That's been a problem for 30 years. I've been around it that long in law enforcement and things, and it just needs to be addressed, and we've been working on it a little at a time. Myself and Judge White got the drug court program going a few years ago, about 15 years ago, up at the courthouse. When we both retired, we passed it on to Judge Clayton, and he's running it now, doing a good job with it. And some of the other things are like industry. We need to get more industry here in Phelps County. St. James area, Rolla area. We're out here at the perfect shipping corridors. We got the I-44 corridor east and west. You got Highway 63 going north and south. They're just perfect for shipping products out. Wherever you go, you also got the railroad going through town. Thank you.
All right, Lisa, answer that one.
Yes, I wish to address attainable housing. Too many Missourians are left behind when it comes to the opportunity to own property. One of the most reliable methods to gain wealth is through home ownership. Yet skyrocketing housing costs coupled with slow to stagnant wage growth have made it next to impossible for many hardworking Missourians to break the cycle of poverty. When elected, I will support policies that promote the construction of modestly priced homes, as well as policies that make it easier to apply and qualify for home loans.
Okay, Tara.
So living in Phelps County, I think that we have a great quality of life. Recently, my issue that I think is really important is getting people back to work. It doesn't matter where you go. This past week, if you drive to Panera and you want to go inside to have a cup of coffee with your friend, there's a note on the door that says short-staffed. It's something as simple as that, but it's also something as critical as, and you all probably know that Walgreens was closed for an entire week because they didn't have enough people to man the building to give people their prescriptions, which is, affects people's lives. As a small business owner, I think that if you talk to anybody, it's hard to find employees. It's hard to get people back to work. And my priority being in government would be to make sure we incentivize people to get back to work. We need to make sure that we've got programs in place that encourage this to happen. And we need to get employees back to our communities so that we can keep our quality of life.
All right, thank you. All right, as mentioned before, next will be our 2 questions from the public. And again, you've got 60 seconds to answer those. And I think we'll let Tara go first this time, try to keep rotating it around. All right, here's the question. Solar power is the fastest growing power source in America, but Missouri gets its power predominantly from coal. What will you do to incentivize utility-scale solar power as well as customer-generated solar for those without access to clean energy?
I've got nothing new here that the senators didn't say. Obviously, we need to protect our infrastructure that we've got thousands and millions of dollars invested in. But at the same time, obviously, we need to make sure that we've got alternative sources for the public. So those issues need to be looked at, and we need to support both of those efforts.
Okay. Randy?
When I was on the road back in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s, I did a lot of driving out west. And there's all kind of wind farms, solar farms, all kinds of stuff back then that they was building. And they've got to be increased by now. It's been several years since I've been out there, but they were fixing to build transmission lines across the country to send that power in. And that's one thing they need to get finished so that small cities can get hooked up to that and help with their utility bills. The coal, I'm still for the coal industry. The coal plants and the dam up at Bagnell Dam, that kind of power. The way I look at it, if the good Lord wouldn't have put it on the ground to use, we'd have found something else to do with it.
Thank you. All right, Lisa?
I would like to talk about Intercounty Electric Co-op just for a few moments because they have been our source of electricity for all my life. Intercounty Electric Co-op diversifies their resources for collecting energy. Not only are they using coal, but they are working towards a system that they don't rely so heavily on coal. They are working with wind power, solar power, nuclear power, and coal. They're going through all of these. And by relying not on just one source of power, they have been able to provide reliable electricity, reliable energy to a large portion of Missouri. I would like to see us move more towards solar, and if we can work that into part of our attainable housing and new construction, I would like to see us provide incentives that encourage people to use energy sources such as the solar energy.
Okay. Tara?
Oh, I've
Nope.
already answered the solar energy.
Oh, you are we
I can
finished
answer
with
it
that
again
one?
if you'd like.
I knew that
What else
that
can we
would
talk
happen.
about with solar energy?
I knew that would happen when you started switching around. We should have just stayed alphabetical. Okay, well, we'll let Randy go again. I'll try to keep up with it this time. We'll let Randy go first again this time. There's a state surplus in revenue this year that some have estimated at between 4.5 and I think we heard a number a while ago, $9 billion. It's a lot of money. How would you want to handle that surplus?
Well, that needs to be distributed between the states for the infrastructure. Our roads and bridges need work bad. And that would be the first place I would send it to, is start working on these roads and bridges, but not in St. Louis and Kansas City. It needs to go to the rural areas. That's the ones that usually get the shortfall, is out in the rural areas. They send most of the tax and road money, the gas tax money and stuff, to the big cities, and the rural areas don't get very much of it. And also, they need to work on the businesses and get more businesses and manufacturing and things like that into the area. They could use some of that money for that kind of stuff. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, Lisa?
Hi. When I worked for the St. James and the Rolla Public School Districts, I was the chair of their salary committees. And one thing we knew was that you cannot dedicate one-time money to salary increases. Salary increases have to come from funds that are going to be generated year after year after year. So we have a state surplus of money. This is wonderful news, but we need to make sure that this is going to be a trend for the next few years. And if it is a trend, then let's get that money sent in through the appropriations bills. Let's use that money for things dealing with poverty, dealing with drug addiction, dealing with housing, dealing with low teacher pay. These are things that we can use that money for, but it has to be done responsibly. We have to make sure that this is a recurring trend in Missouri.
Okay. Tara, you want to answer this one, right?
I do.
All right.
I was going to ask if anybody has a calculator, we should take $4.5 billion and divide it by 38,000 Phelps County residents. How much would that be a check for everybody, right? All joking aside. If there is a surplus, obviously, we needed to budget a little better money. Just as mentioned before, workforce development, which is a top priority for me, education, healthcare, infrastructure. Go back to the drawing board and obviously decide where that money needs to go, who needs it the most, and get that budgeted so that we can get that sent out to the rural areas and those that really need it.
Okay. Appreciate all the answers. Now, each of you will have 2 minutes to follow up from our previous questions. You can reflect back on some of those. You can bring up new issues. This is your 2 minutes to speak to whatever you want to speak to. And we're going to go ahead and go back to our reverse alphabetical, so we'll let Tara go first on this one.
Oh, I get to go first, and he's already started. Okay. So in the closing statement, as mentioned earlier, as a family farm business owner, I do understand the importance of running a business, everything from budgets to bringing commerce back to our community. Our small business has, I believe that small business should have more support, limited government outreach. And as a wife and mother, I also support the family unit, what's best for our children, and that's especially in our education system. As the daughter of a Vietnam War veteran, I wholeheartedly believe in standing up for our flag, our freedom, our Constitution. So lastly, that the job of the state representative is 100% supporting our constituents and making sure that the taxes that they pay are budgeted and held responsible for that position. So what matters to them is they want to make sure that their issues are heard, that their tax dollars are being well spent, and that when it comes to the issues that they're talking to their state representative about, that they're listened to and that are important. And I believe to do all of these things, it takes a very well-rounded leader, somebody that's a good listener, again, a business owner that understands, and somebody that's a champion for our constitutional rights and our freedoms. And I believe that all my experiences throughout the area that I've had over the years will serve the people of Phelps County very well in that aspect. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Lisa?
Phelps County is blessed with diversity. We have family-run farms, family-run small businesses, wineries, beautiful parks, great places to hunt and fish, numerous churches of a variety of denominations, a dedication to the arts. This all sits in the same community as a highly respected university and an excellent hospital. Phelps County has so much to offer. It would be my honor to represent such a dynamic community. It is time to change the dialogue in Jeff City. It is time to stop political parties, special interest groups, and greedy corporations from telling us what our conversations should be about. It is time to start talking about poverty, to start talk about attainable housing, to start talk about drug rehabilitation, to start talk about healthcare advances. It is time to elect someone who is willing to have those conversations on the floor of the House of Representatives. Thank you. I'm Lisa McCarthy, running for District 122. I would like to be your next representative.
Randy?
Thank you, Don. I was raised up down in Beulah, Missouri, down the south part of the county on a farm. Didn't have much going down there. Went to Licking High School, graduated. I'm a member of the NRA. Drove a truck for 12 years. Worked at Newburgh as chief of police for 3 years, 23 years with Phelps County Sheriff's Department. I retired there as a lieutenant. I don't have no major degrees or anything. I've just got a lot of blue-collar work ethics for the last 50-something years. I bring with me that to this election, just a lot of know-how and hands-on stuff. And as far as the county itself, we get into Phelps County, we got a lot of resources right here around St. James. You got the wineries, like Lisa said. Over here, you've got a lot of industry around Rolla here. You've got tourism. You got a lot of fishing, swimming, golf. There's about everything you need to do here in Phelps County. It just needs to be brought together more, and some resources and things like that, and advertise more. And the big hospital, you've got the biggest hospital in the area right over here at Phelps County. Go along with S&T, or whatever you call it nowadays, S&T, UMR, School of Rocks. And that's just the way I look at it, and I'd appreciate your vote on August the 2nd. And thank you very much.
Okay. Thank all of you, and that concludes our Q&A with candidates for the Representative District 122. And next up will be our representatives from District 143. And I want to remind everybody that we've got some water up there and even some cookies, if anybody needs some water or chocolate chip cookies. Candidates for the House District 143, we have Benny Cook, Republican, and Philip Lohman, Republican. Not with us tonight are Christopher Davis, Republican, and Bernadette Holzer, Democrat. All right, so we will go ahead and start now. Let me get my paperwork together, and we'll start with Benny. You have 30 seconds to introduce yourself, and include why you're running for office. Maybe talk a little bit about yourself, why you're seeking office, any qualifications you have, that type thing. So, Benny?
My name is Benny Cook, my wife Amanda, and our children, and I live in Houston, just outside of Houston on our farm. I'm a sixth-generation Missourian. I'm currently the state representative for the 142nd District. It's been redistricted. Now it's the 143rd District. And just made that decision to run for re-election. I knew there was more I can do in Jefferson City. And just ready to get back up there and continue fighting for the 143rd District.
Okay, thank you. Philip?
Hello, my name is Philip Lohman. I'm running for District 143. My record is that I've helped create these new districts. During the U.S. Census, I gathered the signatures required and so that we could get proper representation here in Phelps County. I would very much like to be your representative so I can support your will in the House of Representatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll cover 6 questions that you guys have heard already. First 4 compiled by the Phelps County Focus staff, and the final 2 submitted by some of the public. And you've got 60 seconds to go through those. And now instead of 3 candidates, we have 2, so we can just take turns. It makes it very, very simple for me and for you too. So we'll start out alphabetically with Benny, and the question is, Missouri S&T has continued to earn national prestige while being Phelps County's largest employer. Is the system working? Should additional resources be pursued? If elected, what will your priority be for the university? Benny?
Missouri S&T is very important to Phelps County and the surrounding area. I'm in the process of planning to plan a visit over to S&T to visit with the administration so we can discuss their strategic plan, enrollment numbers, graduate numbers, and at this time I really can't comment on the additional resources, but Missouri S&T would definitely be a priority of mine.
Okay, thank you. All right, Philip?
All right. I am very much appreciative of S&T is the largest employer. I encourage more state funding because it has proven itself time and time again and to be a cut above the rest. It's not just nationwide, but globally. So I'm going to increase more funding through the state. Thank you.
Okay, Philip, we'll stay with you on this second question. Lack of high-speed internet and cell phone service for Newburgh and other rural parts of Phelps County has prevented those areas from seeing the full benefit of potential investments. Should the state government take a more active role in expanding these services or leave the matter to the free market?
I do believe the state should increase funding because right now they are facing a labor shortage and a shortage of raw materials. Unless they get the raw materials and the labor, you can't get internet built. And so I encourage increasing funding to help incentivize people to go work for them. Thank you.
Okay, Benny?
The high-speed internet question?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want me to read it?
Yeah,
I
if you
can read
could.
it again. Lack of high-speed internet and cell phone service for Newburgh and other rural parts of Phelps County has prevented these areas from seeing the full benefit of potential investments. Should the state government take a more active role in expanding these services or leave the matter to the free market?
High-speed internet service and the cell phone service, in my opinion, kind of go hand in hand. During these last 2 years, the lack of high-speed internet and cell phone service in rural areas has definitely become a larger issue. I believe you'll see a combination of the state government and the free market being involved. Currently, there are broadband companies currently working in the rural areas that do not accept any funding from the government. These companies are doing just fine without that government money, and they are expanding. However, there are companies that do receive these federal and state grants, and they're expanding into the rural areas. I'm currently on the Rural Caucus Committee in Jefferson City. We're always looking at ways to expand broadband into the rural areas. This year, Missouri has allocated a large amount of funding to broadband projects. These funds will definitely have an impact on rural Missouri, and I will be advocating for the 143rd District to receive broadband funding this year and future years.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we'll stick with Benny on this next question. The state legislature in recent years has sought to overturn laws passed by citizens' initiative or change the criteria to have an issue placed on the ballot. What is your view of Missouri's initiative process?
The initiative petition definitely has some issues. It has a lot of flaws. This last legislative session, several pieces of legislation were filed to fix the initiative petition. A concern I have is that the current initiative petition process gives the power to our cities to change our constitution, basically. It takes the power away from our rural Missourians. We must look at a way to fix this system so our rural Missouri voices are heard. The issue I also have is that it expands our Constitution, and we don't need to continue expanding our Constitution.
Okay, Philip?
Yes, I do believe it has many issues right now, and it definitely needs to be fixed. Much like what my opponent just said, it is putting too much power in the seas, and we need to diversify the power to the entire state, not just St. Louis and Kansas City. And when I'm elected, I'm going to help fight to give equal voice to everyone. Thank you.
Okay, and we'll stick with Philip on this next question. What is another key issue facing our community you are concerned with, and how do you propose to address it?
Thank you. So currently, over the last 2 years, Rolla has become one of the top 6 spots for human trafficking reports and drug possession. The problem stems all the way to the border. Therefore, I am making the proposal to send 3,000 Missouri National Guards to help secure the border to stop the problem at source. If we stop the drug problem, stop the sex trafficking from coming into the country, we help secure the state. Thank you.
Okay, Benny?
We have several big problems facing our area. Currently, many of the problems stem from the federal government with the regulations. Inflation is hurting all of us, and if we don't save America this year and in 2024, we're going to lose our homes and businesses. I can't fix Washington, D.C., but I can fix at the state level, I can fix our issues with removing regulations that hinder our businesses and our hardworking citizens. Other problems that are facing our citizens currently is a lack of people in the workforce. I plan on to work on welfare reform again next year. The government has to stop incentivizing people to stay at home. Finally, another problem facing our area and all of Missouri is crime. Drugs have become a problem nationwide and fuel much of the crime in this area. While we must expand drug treatment facilities, we also have to ensure criminals understand there are consequences for their actions. I have met with law enforcement and prosecutors, and I have introduced truth in sentencing legislation. This requires the offenders to serve a larger percentage of their sentencing, decreasing the chances for early release. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Benny, we'll stick with you on this question. Solar power is the fastest growing power source in America, but Missouri gets its power predominantly from coal. What will you do to incentivize utility scale solar power as well as customer generated solar for those without access to clean energy?
There's currently incentives out there, and I think there's, obviously we have task force at the state level that are working on this, but the incentives are there, and I think that people have the opportunity for that, for the solar as it is right now.
Okay. Philip?
Basically, the state of Missouri is consuming 8 times the energy it produces. This is why your energy bill is so high. It does not have to be one energy source versus the other. We need to incentivize all energy equally so that we can increase our energy production. If we can get it to where we match our energy production, or if not increase it, your energy costs will go down. I incentivize the market for all our energy productions. Thank you.
Okay, and we'll stick with Philip on this question. There's a state surplus in revenue this year that some have estimated at the billions of dollars. We've determined that. How would you want to handle that surplus?
I will vote to help increase school funding and repair our infrastructure. It's over 100 years old, and it's in desperate need of repair. Our education system is in the toilet. 6 out of 10 students cannot read, write, or do math at grade level. It needs better funding. Thank you.
Benny?
That's a large amount of money, obviously, and we have to take a good look at that before we jump the gun on this and try to throw money at this or throw money at that. I think it's time we really sit down and look at it. What are we going to do with this money? Is it better to have some back in the savings account? But we have to take a look at it to see what the best approach is for the state of Missouri and the citizens.
Okay. Now each candidate will have 2 minutes to follow up from previous questions or bring up other issues, respond to some things that have already been said. Whatever, it's your 2 minutes, whatever you want to do with it. And we'll start with Benny on that one, and then let Philip come next.
While serving as your state representative here in Phelps County, Texas County, Howell County, and Pulaski County, I have learned a great deal in my first 2 years. My previous work history definitely prepared me for the job, but you'll always learn more on the job. I currently serve on the following committees: Public Safety, Professional Registration, and Health and Mental Health, and the Joint Committee on Disaster Preparedness and Awareness. During my time working as a constituent specialist for Congressman Jason Smith, I work with state and federal agencies to conduct casework for constituents of the 8th Congressional District and here in Phelps County. I learned a lot there. In some cases, it would require update to law, new legislation, or to work on casework for people across the 8th Congressional District. So I learned a lot in that area. To be the state representative, you have to be out there and working with the constituents. In conclusion, it has been an honor and privilege to be the state representative for the 142nd District. I look forward to serving the 143rd District of Marys, Phelps, and Texas counties. During my first term in office, I worked on legislation to protect our first responders, reform our welfare system, secure our elections, increase access to health care, reduce burdensome regulations. I took an oath of office to support the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Missouri, and I will continue to fight to ensure that no one takes away our freedoms. I humbly ask for your vote on Tuesday, August 2nd, and please re-elect me as your state representative.
Okay, Philip?
Wow, that speech was so bad, my sign went away. Basically, all that sounds great, but unless the education system is reformed, we won't have anyone to run the country when we're in our golden years. There's, like I said previously, 6 out of every 10 students cannot read, write, or do math at grade level. According to the state auditor, Eric Schmidt, $500,000 were spent on diversity, equity, and inclusion in consultants. And there's a lot more to that. But basically, it's all in the schools. Right now, the employers are facing a shortage, mainly because people are being incentivized not to work, and we need a stronger labor market. We need more people to come move to the state so we can fill these jobs. And my hope is that if we can get back on the budget, we can help prevent the state from going bankrupt. We're $46 billion over budget again, and we need to get on the budget before it's too late. Thank you.
Okay, we appreciate you guys making the trip over tonight, and that's it for House of Representatives District 143, and now we're going to hear from the Associate Circuit Judge Division 1 candidates. For being here tonight. We're going to start out like we have the others, 30 seconds to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit not only about yourself, but some of your qualifications and why you're seeking office, and then we'll go on with the questions. So 30 seconds each, and we'll start with Ken.
Thank you. My name is Ken Clayton. I am currently serving as the Associate Circuit Judge in Division 1 in probate. Have served there for 4 years. My family, my wife, Carla, and I live in Phelps County. We have 3 children that are going to Rolla school system, 2 sophomores and 1 8th grader. And I've been a licensed attorney now for 27 years, since 1995, and I'm very involved in the community in Lions Club and Green Tree Church.
Okay, Andrew.
My name is Andrew Russick. I live here in Rolla with my beautiful wife and 2 children. I am a criminal attorney who appears regularly before various judges in Phelps County and sometimes in other counties. And I believe, well, I am aware of the issues our judicial system has. I think I can be the candidate who can help fix those problems that affect individuals and the community. And I represent the values of the community.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we'll go on to our questions. You'll each have 60 seconds to answer the question. First question is, and we'll start with Ken on this one since we just did the introductions, and we'll rotate. What is a key issue facing our community that the judicial body can have influence on, and how can the judicial body influence it?
Thank you. key issue that I have in my mind is, as the drug court judge, I am really tired of hearing of the individuals in this community who are dying from fentanyl overdoses. The key issue to me is the trafficking of fentanyl and other dangerous drugs into this community. I think that the judicial body can have impact on that, much like Representative Cook said, in a truth in sentencing situation, and make it so that the criminals who want to bring drugs into this community don't want to be here. I've talked to the police about it and have learned that in older times, there were criminals who would not come into Phelps County to distribute drugs. Now they're coming in from other counties all the time. So they're not afraid to be here, and the judiciary can help make it so that they're afraid to be here in the future.
Okay, thank you. Andrew?
I believe a serious issue is crime, and whether that's fentanyl, trafficking, or petty crime. This position deals primarily in a criminal manner with misdemeanors and would handle misdemeanor probation. That means often young people who may be at the start of what may become a criminal career on probation, and a judge who handles issues properly, who makes sure that they are learning the lessons that probation is supposed to teach you, may stop them from committing the next crime and the next one until it eventually becomes a felony. It's important to stop petty crime and major crime, and I believe this position especially can have a big influence on petty crime before it becomes major. Whether that's probation or bond, those are important points that this position especially can handle and that I would address thoughtfully and seriously.
Okay, thank you. And you're both going to have a chance to expand on that because you brought that up as your key issue, and that's also one of the questions that we got. Drug addiction directly and indirectly leads to much of the crime in our community. As a whole, what is the judicial process doing, and what else should they be doing to address this problem? And let me just expand a little bit on that. You know, and all of you see that being in the courts. You know, you have your drug offenses, and then you have a burglary that was caused because of a drug offense. So it's kind of a, you know, it's even much deeper than what a lot of people realize. So if you could just expand on that some more and what the judicial could be doing. Andrew, you go.
Thank you. Drug use is often called a drug problem. It's a problem for the user, it's a problem for their family, for their mothers, for their children, and it's a problem for the community. As our moderator said, it often is the source of these other crimes, stealing from Walmart, stealing from people's homes. It all comes back to drugs. We have drug court. This position handles drug court. I would take drug court or probation for petty crimes seriously. And I believe what we can do is, while there's a attempt to be compassionate for drug users, because maybe they are suffering from a problem. We've seen what that does when we look at the West Coast, when we look at St. Louis and Kansas City. We need to take it serious whether or not they're a trafficker, whether or not they're an individual user or something in between. This position and the judges in this community need to be tough on crime, regardless of the crime and regardless of if you feel bad for the criminal.
Thank you.
All right, Ken.
Thank you. You know, that's true, that very much of, a great deal of the criminal offenses in this county are either directly or indirectly related to drug use and possession. If the drugs are not here and people are afraid to bring them here, that's going to help reduce the availability. The idea that lower level crimes become larger crimes is a little bit misleading, because you have a lot of people in this community who start with very large crimes, and they've never been in the criminal system until they offend in a large way. They get caught up in whatever's going on in their world and commit larger crimes. Drug court is an availability to help individuals get over their drug addiction and return them to the community as productive members.
Thank you.
All right. And we'll stick with Ken on this question. People are often frustrated with how slow the judicial system works with continuances and things like that. What, if anything, can or should be done to speed up the process?
Well, one thing that is being done is the grand jury process, and that speeds up the criminal process on felony cases from the beginning of the case until the until the conclusion of the case. Obviously, if judges are willing to grant continuances and attorneys are requesting them all the time, that's going to slow things down. If judges take a more harsh view and don't allow continuances except for good cause, that would speed things up.
Okay. Andrew?
I believe the issue is complacency. Attorneys, judges, we all know each other to a degree. We all have some kind of relationship, and I believe that it's complacency that gets used to continuances for maybe not valid reasons and things like that. But the attorneys all get to go home at the end of the day, whether it's a continuance or some other delay, but victims don't, plaintiffs don't, defendants don't, and I believe a fix to that problem would be, as my opponent indicated, holding people's feet to the fire, whether it's attorneys, experienced or new, prosecutors, police, everybody involved in the court system, making sure that they're doing their job so that the system runs efficiently, but also at a speed appropriate for those with interests directly tied to each individual case.
Okay, thank you. Now it's time for our 2 minutes to follow up. You can talk about some of the things you've already talked about, bring up other issues. We'll stick with Andrew on this one. You have 2 minutes to close, and then Ken will have 2 minutes.
This is a judge race for this specific position. It's the primary. It's what starts on August 2nd. Both Ken and I are running for the Republican primary, and that's the Republican Party, and the question is who represents the Republican Party, who represents the community. I believe I represent the community. I have values that fit the Republican Party. That's the community, that's family, that's protecting life at all stages, that's individual liberty and freedom. My opponent was a Democrat for almost 2 decades, switched parties recently. I have been a Republican my entire life. While I did just start, this is my first candidacy, but I have held those values. I'll continue to hold those values. When in office, I will faithfully execute the law, but this position isn't always handling issues that can be seen, that can be answered by getting an answer out of a book. It requires discretion, whether it's bond, probation, and other matters like that, where you have to make a call. And the individual making that call should represent the community, should represent the party they're running for, and I am that candidate. On August 2nd, I ask for your vote so that I can be the Republican candidate, return the Republican Party to a Republican, and I thank you for your time. I thank the moderators for their time, and I thank everybody who's viewing and everybody who participates in the political process.
Okay. Ken?
Thank you. You know, this election is about representing this community, and it's interesting to me that my opponent chooses to run on that because he's been a member of this community for 2.5 years. I've been a member of this community for 40 years. I am a Rolla High School graduate. I have come back here after law school and after my undergraduate degrees to work here in this community and have served this community for the past 27 years. I started as a public defender. I served as prosecuting attorney for the county. As I mentioned earlier, the officers that I've talked to said that at one time this county was a county that criminals didn't want to get caught in. That was when I was actually the prosecutor in this county. It's been, according to one of the officers I talked to, at least 16 years ago. And that was when I was prosecutor. And so I'm very proud of that criminals didn't want to be here at that time because they knew that they would be prosecuted and they would be sent to prison. I have served this community in a number of different ways. I'm a member of Green Tree Church. I'm a member of the Rolla Lions Club. I put on last year's carnival as carnival chairman with the assistance of my committee. I serve at Green Tree Church in a number of different positions. It's just very simple. I'm the person from the community, and I'm the person who knows what this community is about, and I would appreciate your vote on August 2nd. So please vote and vote for me on August 2nd. Thank you.
Okay, we appreciate both of you being here tonight. I know it's been very informative for the public, for all the candidates here. We thank everybody for being here. I want to remind all the viewers, spread the word. You can watch this again or watch, tell your friends and family to watch it. It'll appear again on Channel 16, as well as be available on the Phelps County Focus Facebook Live, or not Facebook Live, on our Facebook page and YouTube. And you can watch it later. Also want to make sure and thank Rolla Public Schools for allowing us to use this great facility. It's already set up for video, so that made it really easy for us. And just thank everybody for the night. And I guess, is there anything else, Andrew? Oh, I guess I'm supposed to do this. This is R.D. Hohenfeldt's birthday, and I'm supposed to say happy birthday to R.D. as we close. So everybody in Rolla knows R.D., so when you see him, tell him happy birthday. All right, thank you.
Thank you.